Hey, what's up, Street Gods? It's Eric from the Eric Street Photography God. So, currently on the streets of Saigon, and yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a life update and just some random things which are on my mind. So, one of the first things that I've been thinking a lot about photography is, ultimately, photography is really not that important. It's much more important to live a meaningful life. And if your photography isn't a tool to help you find more personal meaning and joy and happiness in your life, why are you kind of doing it? So always consider whether you're having fun in your photography and whether photography is giving your life more deeper meaning and purpose. So let me give you an example. The reason why I do the Cindy project is because it helped me find more personal meaning in my personal life in terms of being appreciative of my loved ones, aka Cindy. There's a lot of times that I get angry with Cindy or frustrated or upset. And by shooting the Cindy project, it's a nice reminder that memento mori, that we're both gonna die, and who knows, she might die tonight, I might die tonight, we might die in a car accident. Why not just leave the petty shit away and do more meaningful things and appreciate each other more often? Another reason I love photography, and the reason why I shoot photos, is because it helps me be more courageous. So I know that before I started shooting photography, I was a lot more timid as a person. I mean, a lot of people look at me like, oh, Eric, you're so confident in street photography. It's something that I had to cultivate over a long period of time. It wasn't something that happened overnight. And that's the cool thing I love about street photography and photography in general, is that it's not deterministic, which means, no, you're not born like a shy person. I think everyone's kind of born a shy person and suspicious of strangers. Confidence is something we could build. Confidence is something that could be cultivated. Confidence is something that we could practice and learn. And even a random photo assignment I could give you in terms of building your confidence is imitate a confident photographer or a photographer you consider to be awesome. So, like, off the top of my head, Richard Avedon is probably my favorite photographer because he's straight up, he's like, hey look, when I make portraits of people, that's not me capturing them, it's me as a photographer subjecting that person to my own subjective view of them. As a photographer, I have supreme control and I'm kind of like a photo tyrant dictator that I'm forcing my own view of the person upon them. And he said, Richard Avedon has a quote is, all photos are accurate, none of them are truth, which means photos are accurate in terms of capturing the pixels of a scene, of the light of a scene, but they're not truth because, you know, if you capture a photograph of a person yawning, is that really a true depiction of who they are? Or let's say you make a photo of somebody and you catch them mid-blink and they're like, that's not gonna be who they really look like. Or if you photograph somebody with a fisheye lens, super wide angle lens, you get really close to their face, of course you're going to distort their face and their nose. So effectively you are not your photos, and the people you photograph, they're not truthful representations of them. Another thing I want to talk about is, when it comes to photography, there's no such thing as subjectivity in photography. All photos are, there's no such thing as objectivity in photography, there's only subjectivity. The more opinionated your photos they are, the better. Not only that, but the best photographers are the best liars, which means don't try to seek to tell the objective truth in your photos. Show your own perspective of the world, photo pun intended. And also when it comes to photography, know that you are a subject selector and you're almost like a visual surgeon. So when I say visual surgeon, I mean you start with reality of the world, which is kind of cancerous and a little bit messy. What you're actually trying to do as a photographer is cut away the superfluous, cut away the distracting, cut away what you think is ugly. And so when you're photographing, try to consider what you find interesting and cut away everything else that's not interesting to you. So when you're shooting, either if you use a viewfinder, a phone, whatever, look at the edges and look at the background, and try to get the edges and the background of the scene as simple as possible. And this is a assignment from Street Notes, is subtract, subtract, subtract. So when you're working a scene, you're taking multiple photos of the scene, always try to subtract more from the scene until you're left with the essence. So let's say you're shooting a street portrait of a stranger. Keep trying to subtract from the scene. So subtract their head, subtract their body, and maybe ultimately the photo of the person is just their hands, or just their chest, or just their eyeball, or whatever it may be. So the more specific you can make your photos, the better. The problem with most photos which are boring is that photos are just too general. You're just showing too much of the scene. You're not focusing on one specific element. And to be honest, I mean, it's always been this way, but humans have a short attention span. There's like a bajillion photos uploaded to Instagram every single day. Why is a person going to stop and stare and look at your photo and give your photos the light of day? There should be, okay, this is a random photo idea. You should nowadays, because there's so many images on social media, you almost have to like pay people money to look at your photos and give you feedback. Because honestly, at the end of the day, no one really cares about your photos. People care about their own photos, and they call this the IKEA effect, is that if you build something yourself or you make something yourself, you always overvalue it. This is why parents think that their children are the most beautiful, amazing things in the world, whereas most children are actually kind of like not that pretty and not that nice. And so when you're making photos of a person, know that no one really cares about your photos, and you care about your photos more so than other people. And people are pretty impatient. I think that's why, as a general sense, less is more. Only show your best work, or what you perceive as your best work. And ultimately, to know whether your photos are good or not is to ask yourself, do I like my own photos? And that's the ultimate thing, is if you can make photos that can impress yourself, then you made a good photo. Alright, so that's it for now. To learn more, Google Eric Kim blog, check out Haptic Industries, and until next time, peace out.